Welcome back on another episode of BDCRX, your remedy for the BDC, where Matt and myself will be diagnosing BDCs as well as prescribing results and prescribing recommendations. Before we start, Matt, you want to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Yeah. So just to give you a brief background on me, I run a company called Spin Wheel Sales. I've got 4 different basic branches inside of that business. I offer virtual assistants. We run a sales organization. I do consulting primarily, and then I also run a fairly new BDC outsource. And so my BDC outsourcing business is kind of what led me to get to know Shawn and know more of him and from him. And that's kind of where we kind of came to the idea of kind of coming to this podcast from 2 different worlds, where Shawn's able to share his expertise, I'm able to share my expertise as an outsource, and then to be able to work with people that are inside the store and kind of join the 3-legged tricycle of hopeful success. So that's it for me.
For anybody just joining us that don't know me, my name is Shawn Armour, owner and founder of BDC Alchemy Inc., coaching and consulting for in-house BDCs. I will, a couple of hiccups if ever I pronounce something. I am from Canada. I'm actually from the French part of Canada. The whole reason that Matthew and I started this was to basically be of service. We were tired of the surface level stuff. Not to be cynical, there's no negativity here, but this is a space where we're going to ask the tough questions. We're going to challenge people. We also want to be challenged, which is why we came together from the in-house perspective as well as the outsource perspective, and that it can work. We're not against each other. And Matthew and I being here on this show is a testament to we're not against each other. I mean, Matthew, I think I've sent you 3 people in the last month because I felt in the discovery call that, hey, listen, you would probably be much better off with an outsourced BDC. And who decides? How do you know to have an outsourced BDC? How do you know to have an in-house BDC? And a list of other questions, which is exactly why we created this show. So without further ado, let me tell you guys, you are in for a treat, because I thought I had a high energy, but when I met this magnificent woman, beyond smart, 20 years. I mean, the list of accolades just go on and on. But this week, our guest, we have none other than my good friend. She brings with her 20 plus years of experience in the industry. She's the corporate internet and marketing director at Horn Auto Group in Chandler, Arizona. She's been there for 8 years. She brings with her the perspective of an in-house BDC where she overlooks 14 stores. You heard that right. 14 stores with well over 5,000 followers on LinkedIn. Let's just dive into it. I have the absolute pleasure, Matt and I, of welcoming April Simmons.
Oh, okay. Can we just start with those moments where you feel like somebody's talking about you, but they must be talking about themselves? Feel the exact same way about them.
Yeah.
That's what happens when Shawn speaks about me, because I feel the exact same way about him. And to kick this call off, I do want to share a fun story of how Shawn and I met. Most people who listen to podcasts are probably also, on LinkedIn and doing those sorts of things. And Shawn was one of those people that I just kept seeing him commenting on the same things that I was commenting on, and thinking, how is this person reading my mind? He's saying the same things I'm saying. And this just happened day after day for months. And fast forward, and I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that things happen for a reason. And I had signed up to do a live podcast at Digital Dealer with a good friend, Jason Harris, and I had a time slot, and this specific time slot just wasn't going to work last minute. Very last minute that morning, I'm like, I still need to do this, and this. Any chance I can change? And he said, well, I've got this other time slot available. Can you jump in on that? I was like, absolutely. Didn't even care. Didn't know who, didn't know the topic or whatever, right? I show up to this yacht.
Yeah, it was in Tampa, I think.
It was in Tampa.
It was in Tampa.
And literally, they have a yacht right outside the conference room. And So I walk onto the shot, and there's no other than Shawn Armour. Well, we start the podcast, and we're like,
Each other yet. I didn't think we had met.
no, we had not met.
Zero.
Like, in life, we have not met. So we didn't even really get to meet before we started, right? We jump right in like we do. And he said something during this podcast, and I was just like,
I can't remember what it was.
I know, it's driving me nuts because I was trying to remember what it was too. What I do remember is this. It was so like exactly, I jumped up.
It was a high five.
I said, I know most of you can't see this because it's a podcast, but I had to run over and high five Shawn for what he said because it was more than a mic drop. And I think there's moments when we have these conversations that we got to be real careful not to just let the real important things get muddied in with all the other things we're going to talk about. So when there's something big, you got to shout about it. You got to high five about it. But that was how Shawn and I met. And so I'm happy to now call him a good friend of mine. And so it makes me super excited to be here today to spend time with Shawn, but also to meet Matt and learn a little bit more about the life Matt's leading out there in the universe too. So thank you both for having me. And you tell me, where are we taking this conversation, boys?
Oh, so the format real quick, April, is this is our show. This is Shawn's show. This is Matt's show. There are no rules, but there is a foundation. And we wanted to kind of keep it open because we want to be different. This is a completely different concept. We actually just wrapped up our first show a couple hours ago. It was beyond my expectation, just the format of it. It was so cool. So we're going to go where it has to go. Obviously, we have a framework, because it's BDC related, but we want to go right outside the bounds of BDC. Regardless of the direction that we go, you are the guest of honor, and we want to hear about you. We want you to perhaps challenge us with regards to in-house BDCs, like, hey, Shawn, what do you do with this? And maybe if you have any kind of like outsourced BDC things that have been on your mind for years, Matt, listen, I'm doing work with this guy. We've been friends for a couple of months now. He is an absolute titan in what he does. So the format is simple. Let's be of service. Let's give actionable, tangible stuff. We're going to start with you. You're the highlight. You're the person. You're the phoenix. You're the juggernaut. So I would first there's a broad spectrum of people that are going to be watching this, probably even some entry-level people. So they're going to look to us for inspiration, like April and Matt. We've become the people that we looked up to 10, 15 years ago. Like, we're them now. We're them now. So I fundamentally believe, personally, we have an obligation to give back. So I would love to start really quickly, April, if you could just share your story, because, listen, your career trajectory is really a thing out of a book, out of a story. Like, it's ridiculous. You're overseeing 14 stores, websites, people, dealerships. Why don't you talk a little bit about your journey? How did April get to being on this show today?
It's crazy. People always say you either were born into automotive or you fell into automotive, right? And I fell into automotive. I do not come from a automotive family at all. I grew up in Nebraska, in a small town in Nebraska. I worked really hard from a very, very young age. I graduated high school early. I was managing restaurants at the time, and I got into a bad car accident. And sometimes when a bad thing happens, it actually sets you in motion in a new trajectory. And that thing that was a bad thing actually was a trajectory that put me into the car business. And here's why. I couldn't physically do the job anymore. I couldn't carry the things. My back was just really, really bad. And I knew I wanted to be in some sort of business, capacity. So I reached out to a bank that was hiring for a teller. And I got hired as a teller, and I did that for a couple months, and then quickly transitioned into the loan department. In the loan department of this bank, they bought all the loans for the car dealerships in Omaha, Nebraska. This is how I learned about the car dealerships, and I thought, man, I could be one of them finance people. I think that's a great job for me, right? Like, I just genuinely, and just to be clear, like, this will age me, but at least prove that I am as to be. This is before we faxed credit apps. They literally showed up with applications at the bank and sat down and had to have a conversation about who got what and what was the rate. I did dealer reserve by hand.
Boy.
There was no fancy
with the
tools.
chalk paper, like when you write, it goes through. Like,
Literally, I was talking with another friend this morning, and I said it was crazy. I remember when I was at the bank, one of the new things that came out was this guy, a mouse. How crazy and how hard it was for people to adapt to this thing called a mouse, right? And I think how hard it was for the people I worked with. And back then I was the young one. So I was helping them. I put my hand over their hand and help guide it and show them how to
Oh
do it.
gosh.
But this story reminds me to what you just said, Shawn, about now we're kind of on that other side. And I think that it's really important that for us on the other side that we do not stop learning, right? Like we
Correct.
need to continue the
Yep.
Kaizen, continuous improvement.
Student business. I say that all the time.
And
Student
not
of the
go,
business.
oh, I'm not going to learn how to use a mouse, right?
Mm.
Because I learned how to use a mouse, and then I learned how to use a phone, and then I learned how to use a email, and then I learned how, all these things. And we're in a space now where so much is changing so rapidly, but at the same time, nothing has changed. And we're going to get into that today because that's something I really do want to dig into. So if I was going to say anything, I would say that everything has changed, but nothing has changed. And that's really what I want to dig into today with you guys through this conversation.
Absolutely.
So this is my almost 29th year, as crazy as that is.
Oh.
I'm almost 30 years, It was
Jesus.
1996.
They hired you when you were
but-
5 years old. That's crazy.
This is why we can be friends, Matt. This is why we can be friends. Through the years, yes, when I moved to Arizona in 99, and I've done a little bit of everything. I spent 8 years in finance, 7 years on the retail desk. Had my owner actually call me up and say, April, I keep hiring internet people and they can't sell. You can sell. I need you to go learn the internet. That's actually how I ended up in that space. And I thought, I think you might be wrong about this because I was not really tech savvy. I felt like this, I don't know if this is the right move, but at that time I said, it is the right move, April. If you want to grow, this is something you need to learn. The business is going this direction. It's getting to be a bigger and bigger part of our business. And if you want to be a good general manager operator in the future, this is a space you need to learn. So jumped right out there to figure that out. And what I learned very quickly when people ask me all the time, and I get more questions about the internet space than anything else I do, what's your secret sauce? And it's so simple. When I went back there, I just realized the method of communication is the only thing that changed, but everything else stayed the same. So what do I mean by that? The steps of the sale that have been around since the 50s, 60s, meet and
Also
greet.
known as the road to the sale, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Meet and greet, sell yourself, sell the dealership, these things, right? They were all the same. It's just now the method of communication rather than the handshake at the front door started here on a keyboard or
Yep.
started here on a phone,
Yep.
right? But everything else was the same. That's the spot that everyone misses. And what's interesting is that was what, 2009, 10, somewhere there that I moved into internet. It's now 2025, and that's still the thing everyone misses the most. Everyone misses the most that piece has not changed. And we all think that it has. It hasn't. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. So fast forward from there, I was known for building internet teams. Like that was my jam. Like people trusted me because I had all the desking experience, all the finance, I had all the experience. So people didn't really combat me in ways that a lot of, as you know, BDC directors and
Oh yeah.
and internet managers, they get a lot of pushback. Like, we're not going to do it that way. I'd earned enough respect from the other place that it was easier for me to go, this is the way to do it. And so we started to I built some pretty significant teams, continued to grow, became a general sales manager, was offered a position as a general manager. I've done that to some capacity as well, running stores. When the Horns reached out to me, they said, they were looking for me to be a GM. And I said, I really don't have interest in that anymore. I said, what I really have interest in, and I outlined the job that I have today. I said, you need somebody in a growing organization who can help you in this capacity to be the translator between your general manager and this department, and between the general manager and the vendors and the marketing and all these different things. You basically need an in-house translator. That's what you need. And somebody that can help you build those sides. And so they said, we kind of agree with you, but we don't know you, right? Interview only. So I came to Horn Kia and built their internet team. And 8 months later, they moved me into the corporate role. So I've been here with Horn Auto Group and the corporate capacity since 2018.
I wasn't lying, Matt. Did you hear that?
Yeah, for sure.
It's 29 years sandwiched into, wow, incredible, April. Absolutely inspirational.
Teaching somebody how to use a mouse all the way to here where we are
Right. And you know, so it's really it's been a fun ride, but I think as we transition into the conversation that I'd love to have and challenge each other on, it starts from to BDC or not to BDC, right? That is the question. And so in fact, I have a binder that when I was first starting with our group, that was the first question I wanted to sit down. And, you know, like my good friend Brooke Furnish will say, right? Facts, not
Yeah, shout out to Brooke.
Right? I literally sat down and said, you can't make decisions on what you think or what you feel. We've got to look at the math. So the car business is all math. And it's fortunately in the car business, we tend to go feelings and more feelings. That's usually like how decisions are made. Some of the most biggest decisions that are made in automotive are based upon feelings and feelings. And
for sure.
Based upon math. But if you look at the math, it actually becomes very clear. So Shawn, you know, pre-show you had mentioned, you know, giving, kicking somebody to Matt to have him because he was going to be a better fit as an outsourced BDC. The majority of my stores and the way that I've built my departments through the years have actually not even been what you would call a normal BDC. So we truly are going to have three legs here because I run a cradle to grave internet department. So my teams answer the calls, they answer the leads, they follow up with them, but they also sell the car. So that is in the majority of my metro stores, the bigger stores where I have enough humans and enough opportunities to have a split line, right? Here's my retail staff and here's my internet staff. Now, as you start to get into a smaller store, some of those smaller stores, there's no way to have the manpower to cover.
Now we're talking about coverage.
So now you have to get into that space of saying, hey, if I don't have enough people to be able to cover both sides, now what do I do? Right. Now I either have to outsource BDC, I have to train everyone, and then figure out who's going to do what, where, when, how. So I think the first fact that you have to look at is your math. How many people do I have? How many people do I need? How many opportunities do I have? And how do I create a schedule for coverage that makes sure that no balls get dropped?
Yeah, and you know what, April, you bring up such a strong point, and you know what? This is great. Great transition. Sorry to cut you off, but you've given so many nuggets right now. My brain is just like, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. So to your point, like, use us. We're here, and vice versa. You spoke about outsourced BDC. Let's just jump right into it. Matt, I'm telling you right now, is an absolute titan with this stuff. So what question would you have for hey, I'm thinking about outsourcing, but I'm worried about this? He's right here. Let's do that.
This was more of me just saying, like, for anyone who's like trying to figure out where to go, like, these are the three different, ways you've got to slice it. And I think that the math is the first thing you got to do. You got to figure out your math. You got to figure out whether it makes sense to have the coverage inside or outside. And in a lot of cases, if you're in a smaller store especially, you really can't. You can't possibly have the coverage. And I've got to be real, and you guys will agree with this. This will be something we won't disagree upon. There is a different mindset of a human working BDC versus a retail guy. And I'm going to give you what the main ingredient difference is, and then I'll go wherever you guys want to go from there. But the main ingredient difference is if a internet sales rep / BDC rep does an amazing job, like they're crushing it, they're killing it, they're doing an amazing job, they will fail 85% of the time. If they do an amazing, absolute rock star job, they will fail 85% of the time. Now, a retail associate, on the other hand, will fail somewhere around 40% of the time. Okay? So a retail associate is getting a lot more wins and instant gratification. And a typical sales guy, that feeds the ego, feeds the pride, feeds the thing, keeps the thing moving, keeps the train going. BDC reps have to be much more mentally strong than a typical sales rep.
Oh, yeah.
Because to push back knowing and saying, I'm going to do the best job ever, even though 85% of the time it won't matter. And why do I say that? Because a rock star close rate is 15%.
Yep.
We all know that, right? The average is around 8%.
Yep.
Average job, is 8, 10 is doing pretty good, 12 is great, and 15 is like you're lighting the world on fire.
You know what, April? I just want to pause right there. Can you just repeat those numbers, because I think what's noticeably happened. We were talking about math, and you know me, data analytics. I'm an absolute I get obsessed about it. What are those metrics for people to write down again so they don't have to rewind?
So, and a lot of people. Well, first of all, I need to explain this math again.
Sure.
What I also find in a lot of BDC and internet departments, they take their internet leads, the close rate on their internet leads, and they take the close rate on their phone leads, and they average those two together. Mistake. Okay. What I'm talking about when I say close rate is on the internet leads only. And when I say the internet leads only, I also, yes, I'm talking good leads, but if you have a store that says they're closing at 20%, they're probably batting out leads they shouldn't be batting out. Those are lost leads, not bad leads. So first of all, the math I'm about to share is math based upon good internet leads without kinking the system. That's the disclaimer. Good internet.
we should get that to pop on the screen, man.
Right. Without kinking the system. Okay. If
Disclaimer.
all those things are in truth, then 8% is the average. 10, pretty good job. 12, doing a great job.
So that's on internet leads, right?
On internet leads
What
only.
about the phone?
15%, you're killing it. On the phone should be way better. So your phone pops are typically going to be closing those at around 30 to 35%. Okay, that's typically what I see of a job well done. You should be setting appointments 50 to 55% of every phone pop you get. Of those, 80, 90% to show up. Of those that show up, then you're going to be closing, at about a 70% close rate on the shown. So when you back that math out, phone pop to actually close rate on a sale, you're in that 30-35 period.
That's awesome. I never had those numbers. I've always been that combination. It's worked, but that's just to show you about this show.
That's just to separate them. If you are
100%.
not find your actual areas of opportunity,
Correct.
You might be going like this when you shouldn't be.
Correct.
Now, here's another math fact and falsehood. Those numbers can change dramatically store to store in one really key area as well. Here's the next thing. You need to look at percentage of leads that are high funnel versus mid funnel versus low funnel.
Yes, the lead source.
Lead source matters, and it is unfair to look at one store
Correct.
that might be getting only OEM type leads.
Correct.
Because those should close
the Costco leads. The Costco leads.
Well, they should close at 20%, right? They should close at a much higher percent. But if you have another store that the majority of their leads are those third-party leads, I call them the practice leads, right? If you have a lot of those practice leads that have a 3% closing ratio, depending on the mix of your leads, you might be doing the very best job and 10% is all you can get. But contrarily, you might, if you have a lot of only the low funnel leads, maybe you're a smaller dealership, so you have a small budget, so you're not spending a bunch of money. In those cases, maybe you really should be 20-25% internet close rate, depending on the type of lead that
Let me ask you this question, because just to give you a background on me, prior to me being in this BDC world that I live in today, I used to run a dealer-owned sales organization. I was vice president of sales for Team Velocity. I was at Pure Cars for a period of time, Dealer Alchemist. So I come from a lead generation, website platform background, so I completely understand that. And one of the things we used to always talk to our internet directors, marketing directors, BDC directors we would talk to, and especially around lead sources, was the cost per acquisition. I think that one of the things that you can look at when you are factoring out that lead source rating is how much does it cost for you to get an acquisition. So when you factor in the close rate and then the cost per acquisition, you might be able to find that, yes, you're closing at a lower rate, but your acquisition cost per lead is lower. So, of course, that's going to be cheaper leads that aren't going to be as quality, to where if you spend a little bit more money, increase your budget on the cost per lead, now you could increase your overall close percentage because you're getting a higher quality lead. Does that, I assume that's
Correct.
something you factor into the push and pull.
1,000,000%. Because here's the thing: most vendors want to tell sales reps and then GMs and stuff like, oh yeah, cost per VDP or cost per lead. Honestly, I don't care about that. To your point, Matt, I care about how much it costs me to sell a car.
Yes.
Okay. Because I won't bust roll anyone in particular.
No names, please, no names.
There's a specific vendor, right, who charges on a cost per lead basis. And I said, okay, great. And they keep raising our rates. But when I look at the actual leads, I'm like, all right, so I got 100 leads, but 80 of them were on one niche vehicle, right? I can't sell that one niche vehicle 80 times. I don't even have a switch car for that niche. So it's unfair to be charging based on cost per lead. We really need to be looking at that true cost per sale acquisition. Now, again, that doesn't mean one for one, because there's no such thing. You might have participated 30%. He might have participated 30%. You got to look at it as a whole, but there is a cost per acquisition. But here's the key that I'll tell dealers. Number one, quality over quantity first.
Yes.
But once you have quality, then you go after quantity. The reason being is ultimately we still do need to practice. What happens if you have a guy who's been sitting on the bench for too long and then you send him into the game? He's going to break a bone. That's what's going to happen. So they need to have enough to be practicing as well. There's also a spot where quality and quantity have to have a balance there too. Because if you have a guy going, oh my gosh, I have an opportunity, you can serve him the perfect opportunity as a silver platter and he's going to destroy it because he hasn't been able to keep doing the things and practicing. So there is a balance between quality and quantity, but quality first, quantity second, but also make sure you have enough for them to continue working on their craft every day.
It makes total sense. And so it's interesting, like Shawn and I were talking about how he sent a couple of people that had reached out to him to me, and you had talked about the math. And I think there's a part of that math that I think that maybe I'd even add an extra bullet point to you, and I think that would be the budget. Because a bigger store, a bigger market, a bigger group necessarily don't have to factor in the cost it might be to make an in-store BDC. And the way I always look at it when I'm meeting with a potential client that has an in-store BDC or is considering to build that is I always say, look, we can work directly with your in-store BDC and we can be an absolute amazing supplement. But it depends on what you need. In my opinion, no doubtably, we're going to be about 40% cheaper than an in-house BDC will be, just because we have the bandwidth to be able to do a lot more for the headcount that we have. And so a lot of times when you're looking at exploring a BDC and there's a budget limitation, that's a lot of times where we're an advantage because we offer 7-day-a-week coverage, 8 a.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. coverage. And for a lot of our stores, we cost as much as a single full-time employee cost with a team of people doing that. Now, are we going to, in most cases, be as high quality of an experience? No. Because we're not in the store. We're not going to speak numbers. We can't speak numbers. We're representing the store to a certain degree. But when you're interested in the quantity of calls that it takes to be an effective BDC, that's where I think an outsourced BDC really kind of checks all the boxes for the store. Now, if you have a great BDC manager in place and they can kind of run all of the inner betweens the floor and the outsourced BDC, I think that's where it works best. So some of the stores where we've got a great internet director, but then we're the workhorse behind the scenes, but he's kind of playing that middleman from us to the floor and to the desk. That's where I've seen us working best. Now, obviously, there's not one way to skin any problem, but that's typically where I think our bread is best buttered in a sense.
No, and I would agree with that because you have to have the baton toss person at the store. You've got to have that human. And quite frankly, let's face it, like over the years, I've made my internet lead process shorter and shorter and shorter. Why have I done that? Because I know the human's throwing the towel too fast.
Yep.
So having an outsourced BDC, one of the advantages of that is that they're not giving up, because you do have a team of people that are all just trying to get that done. So one of the plays that a lot of people who do outsource, so they can have less humans at the store level, 1 or 2 humans that are just the baton tossers, and maybe they take first crack. They get day 1 lead and phone call. If they don't convert it immediately, then you have an outsourced BDC that takes it from there, because now you get kind of the best of both worlds. So there's no one size fits process,
100%.
but the math is important. And I think a lot of times when we decide to go into a BDC, or somebody like wants to build one, and they go to a 20 group and they say, hey, let's do a BDC, what they don't factor in when they factor in the cost, they think basically like, oh, there's not really that much cost because we only pay them when they sell a car or set an appointment or whatever. It's just an hourly cost. Well, add up the hourly, but here's where we miss. How much does it cost to interview somebody? Turnover in this space is high.
47%. We were just talking about this earlier. It's 47%.
Right. So now you have a high paid person who is in charge of this turn, spending a ton of time hiring, they quit. Oh, now so-and-so didn't show up. What do
Non-productive.
Right? Like they don't come in because, they decide they don't want to. Like it is a situation where there's a lot of unintended costs that we don't account for when we look at this math. So if you're going to do the math, do the real math, right? Which is the full picture math. When you buy a car, you're not just paying the car payment, right? You got gas, you got insurance, you got all these other things. When you're building a BDC, you don't just have the BDC cost. You have the cost of the managers to build it, to manage it, to operate it, to make sure that they have coverage for it, to do all these additional train and all the things. So there is a place where a hybrid approach also can be a really good start. And especially when you're building. So when I see somebody like Shawn and Matt, I go, hey, there's a really beautiful place where you can grow.
We can coexist.
Together and coexist, right? Where you say, hey, Matt, your boots on, Matt, you're going to start this thing off with your crew, but we're going to send Shawn in to take this first human and the second human to groom them. And as this store grows and they grow, then they are less reliant on the outsource. Yep. And that's how those things work and evolve. But you may have a rule store that no matter how much they grow, there's a ceiling. And if you're at a store where there's a ceiling, that might be where your ceiling ends, where that's the right situation. But if you're at a store, especially like with the amount of buy sales and stuff that we see out there, you might need to bring somebody in, and it's a groomable thing. Outsourced BDCs can be used in a pinch. They can be used long term. They can be used in parallel with in store.
And sometimes just to get you through the storm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, I think one of the negative stigmas, and it's changed. We got to be a little bit optimistic, but I think over time what has happened is that people, like the conversation we're having, they're now like, wait a minute, we can do that? Yeah, of course. You're not anchored to the thing. You just, okay, we need to restructure. You need to regroup. Matt could take over. I mean, Matt, how long does it take you to set up? A couple of days, and then boom, you're rocking and rolling.
Typically, our delay is more the store giving us access to their system is typically the delay. We've got the staff plug in.
Yeah. To anybody that's actually listening internally before they're like, Shawn, say something, we're getting beat up. First of all, no, we're not. Okay. That's exactly what this show is structured for, to get all angles, which is why me and Matt have teamed up. Let's talk really quickly about internal BDCs. I have so many questions for you, April. First of all, for me personally, we know each other, so I architect internal BDCs. I'm not against external BDCs, but it's just what I've been doing for 20, 30 years from the ground up. The first thing that I want to say is this. The BDC is not the goal. The BDC should be the vehicle that gets you to the goal. Like any other department, sales, finance, F&I, et cetera, service, et cetera, the BDC is a business unit. Or an SBU, as I learned in school, a sub-business unit. As long as it's on the financial statement in a box, it is a business unit and should be managed as one. So now that it's a business unit internally, is it a call center? Of course it shouldn't be. I love to create BDCs that are sustainable, and one of the elements, because we did talk about turnover before, 47%. When I go into stores and I'm like, listen, why are we not using a BDC as an incubator to grow future talent? You really want your salespeople on the floor, the new ones, especially the ones that are coming in through the door, you really want them to answer leads? Let them sit at the BDC for the first 2 or 3 months, then transition them over to the floor. So there's so much flexibility that you could do in-house. But one of the questions I wanted to ask you is with regards to, because again, there's going to be a lot of people listening, so I really want to give them, the most for their buck, because having you here is just awesome. 14 stores, correct?
Yep.
Are you central?
We have
Are
different.
Yeah, are you centralized BDC or decentralized?
We're not BDC at all. So
Oh,
to clarify, we do no actual BDC. We are cradle to grave internet departments.
so for anybody that may not necessarily understand that, because to us we're like, oh, can you just really like surface level to anybody that doesn't understand what is an internet department versus a BDC?
So there's three different categories of the people who handle the people back there that handle the lead. There's three styles. There's either the style we just kind of spoke on with Matt, which is I have a baton tosser within the store, and I have somebody that is outside of the building of the store that is handling the follow-up. In a lot of cases now, some of those outsourced BDCs are actually AI and automation. We're seeing a lot of those kind of things. Just to be clear, that is the same box. That is something that is outside of your walls, doing a thing to help get more people to engage with you at the store. That is what that box is for. Now, I'm a big believer in emotion and human touch and all the things. So, of course, first and foremost, if you've got the budget to have an outsourced BDC, that would be the first place I'd go if you're in that category. The next category comes into a traditional BDC, and a traditional BDC can be for sales, service, or both. And when we talk about them, they are truly that call center approach. And their goal, their job, their breath of every day is just set a point. Like a person agreed to come to the store. That's it. That's their sole goal and their job. A actual internet department. So when you have what we do, a cradle to grave internet department, they operate in all of the capacities. So sometimes I may have a outsourced BDC or an AI solution. Sometimes I might have one or two people that are BDC style that are doing long-term follow-up. So I have a human that's a BDC person, but the actual job inside the walls,
like a lead comes through the internet and it hits your CRM.
it's
Boom.
a CRM. It is an internet person. It is somebody that when I pick up the phone and I say, this is April Simmons,
Yep.
and I set an appointment, when you get here, April Simmons is selling you.
Okay, excellent.
That's the difference between the basic difference between BDC and internet is all the way going to be the person that is going to sell you the car, deliver the car, set the appointment. And that is the way that I have found works the best for us. Now, some of my smaller stores and my outlier stores, some of them we have to lean heavier on an outsource or insource BDC, because from a math perspective, I can't have enough humans in an internet department if they get this many leads, right?
Correct. Yeah, the ROI is just not there.
They'll starve out, right?
Correct.
And then you're going to take that 47% turnover and call it 87 because...
Correct. Yeah, it's got to make sense. It has to make sense.
It's got to make sense. So for me, grooming and growing and building internet departments has been the best way for me. Because they learn all the aspects. It does slow their turnover down, those type of things. So that's the way that we do it primarily, is the cradle to grave approach.
So let me ask you this to piggyback on part of what Shawn said there as well. Do you look at that internet department as the equivalent of an entry-level role that then would evolve into that, or are they two different personalities? Because I asked that question, and that I would say my strategy as an executive in the vendor world, and this kind of designed a lot of the vendor world around me, is I stopped hiring people with these massive resumes, and I tried to get my field relationship account executive closers to go out and prospect, and they just wouldn't do it. And I know you're going to have the same thing with some of the talented veteran sales guys in the store, where they just don't want to call and do a bunch of follow-up stuff. That's why you have, this additional lower cost resources. And so what I did as executive is I went and hired a bunch of young people. I taught them how to be an SDR. I taught them how to do the outreach, set appointments. And then, like, I'd say probably one of the things I was most proud about in my vendor career is that at Dealer On, I piloted that business. I grew that, and in the first 12 months, I had 13 people promoted from SDRs to account executives, and that's where we went from having 10 sales reps to over 60. It was all a homegrown, built from within. Everybody starts as an SDR. You prove you can do this. You learn that skill, then you grow to do this, then you grow to do that. Is that the model you have in the internet department where that's kind of your feeding ground for the other parts, or is it just a separate personality?
Actually, really good topic that you brought up, but honestly, in Arizona, the majority of the car dealerships here do run internet departments. Okay, yeah. That is just kind of the way it's done around here. And in our neck of the woods, to go to the internet department, that's actually a promotion. Actually, if you're going in there, that's a promotion because you're given more authority. You're given access to tools to look up things, to be a part of those things, to be, allowed to be on your own and kind of work through things and say things and quote things and whatever, right? So it always was kind of put out there as a promotion. Now, to your point, Matt, I don't think it that way. And the reason being is some of the best salespeople we've known since the beginning of time don't make great managers, right? Fair statement. Everybody knows this. Some of the best sales guys are like, I don't ever want to be a manager because they know they can't manage other people. The same goes for internet versus sales. Some of the best sales guys won't last 2 days in the internet department because of the rejection. Because they can't sell. They're like, they got to be up and around. I'm like, dude, there's leads. Where's so-and-so? Oh, yeah. He's walking the lot because he can't sit at a computer all day, right? So it is two different skill sets. Some of my best hires have been people who have no car experience. Chastised, though, for hiring somebody who doesn't have experience because it's supposed to be a quote-unquote promotion. And I'm like, no, get over that. I think whoever goes into the internet department needs to just have the right skill set and the right effort and attitude, and that's it. If you give me the right effort and attitude, the rest can be trained. My number one sales guy that I've ever brought in from the outside, and I'm talking like I got beat up for hiring this guy. Every day, all day, every little thing he did wrong, like they would just beat me up.
Yeah.
This kid was a door-to-door salesman. Okay? He had every brochure, this again, aging myself, because, now we have to ask that. But he had every brochure on his desk with sticky notes all through it. Like, he was so going to learn this.
Yes. Yep.
And he worked so hard.
He was dialed
By
in.
the third month, he was salesman of the month. The end of that year, he was salesman of the year. He has never looked back. And on New Year's Eve that following year, I got a text message from this young man this long. And every time I think about it, I get teary-eyed because he lived in a bad neighborhood, gunshots every night, these kind of things. And now he lives in a beautiful home and just this on and on where you realize that effort and attitude always should be front and center in our hiring decisions. I'm glad you brought that up, Matt, because I think too many times, especially in automotive, we get into this like, well, that guy ain't got no experience. Great. Where did you get your experience when you started?
Yeah. It's kind of like profiling the customer walking the lot and calling them a tire kicker. No, they don't have money.
It's crazy, April. And look, I think of myself as a leader, a coach, not a manager. And I think that you have to be the right leader to be able to hire like that, April. If you are a manager and not a coach, if you are a manager and not a developer, then you always want to just bring in the person who already has the skills and you just manage them. But for me, my strength is coaching and development. So if you gave me the option of the 10-year vet who's been doing this for 10 years or the person who is a clean slate, 100 times over 100, I choose the clean slate because I know I can teach the right skills, traits, and attributes as long as they have the right personality traits to be able to be successful. But in most cases, the veteran, I spend more time untraining the bad habits the way I want it to be done. And so for me, like you, it sounds like, April, I look for personality traits, mindset, characteristics, hunger. Those are far more important than a resume ever will be for me because it's about what they will be, not what they've done. The more they've done, the less they will be, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And this, oh, go ahead, April. Go ahead. Go.
and then you're all you on the flip side, because this is equally important, because this especially in automotive happens a
Hit it,
lot.
April. Just let it out. Let it out. Let's go. This is BDCRX. Go.
BDC especially, and the internet department especially, in that area of your business, more than anywhere else in the entire store, it is important that these humans work well together. Okay? They have to work as a team. Otherwise, you will sacrifice results to the nth degree. So on the flip side of hiring, if I have a bad seed, you must cut cancer at all costs. I don't care if the guy sells 50 cars a month. If he is poisoning the people around him, you must cut cancer.
Yep.
Because what you don't know when you only look at numbers on a chart is what that one human is costing you. You look at
Correct.
what they're giving you, you're not looking at what they're costing you. And I promise you, you have a negative ROI. You
Oh,
have a
yeah.
negative ROI with that situation. And all too often in this business, we keep bad people based on what we see
Don and I
on
had
the
a,
board.
I said,
What's
Shawn
that,
and I
Matt?
had a conversation about a rep in my business just this week, that exact same thing. And it's that tough decision of this person being a top performer, a person that's looked up to, but we identified the fact that they were that cancer. And it's not an easy decision to move away from them. But we know even though it's going to require me to take a step or two back, I will never be able to step forward with that person in the business. So, yeah,
Correct. And there's no growth. That person's just going to be a pebble in the shoe. So I was always taught coming up, hire slow, fire fast. Like just one of the things, I actually saw something like this on Instagram. I think it was Alex Hormozy or something like that, and he was just alluding to the fact that one of the critical elements when you own a business, or in your case, April, you're operating a business, so it's your business. So it is the absence of making quick decisions when they need to be made, right? So it's not firing from the hip, but look, like you said, do the math, but outside of the math, what is this person contributing to? So, but I do want to switch to this because we did mention this at the beginning, and we're getting short on time, which clearly we could talk for like 2 or 3 hours. But you were mentioning before, and I wanted to talk about this, that the more things change, the more they're the same.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that?
And as you start to look at the years, 2008, we had a major transition and shift, but really since 2008 and up to COVID, things just kind of stayed in a little space. And then all of a sudden, now I already had digital retailing, but what happened with COVID? Then it's, everybody, you need digital retailing.
Yeah. It was like a gold rush. It was a gold rush.
Right? And now you want to talk about buzzword bingo. Now we add AI.
Yeah.
And we had CDP, and we had all these buzzwords, right? That everyone just wants to get to this spot where every dealer in their mind now believes I can write you a check, and then I can just sit back here and wait for the deals to just roll in. And everyone is starting to believe this mentality, and it's just not the case. There's nothing that's changed. So here's where I challenge this. So recently, May 1st, I did something aggressive with my Metro Internet departments. I deleted every template in the CRM.
What?
Ripped off the band-aid.
Gone, done.
You know why? Because I had to force them to read the lead. And we all know, right? Like they don't read the lead. So I'm seeing like click and send templates that don't even make sense.
Yeah, like what are you doing? They asked you for this and you sent that.
Like we're not listening. We're not listening at all. We're not listening to the customer at all. So I said, it can't get any worse. We're just going to delete them all. I went through, here's all the 9 different types of leads, how to hear a customer, how to know where they're at, explaining it all. But here's the real aha moment for old car guys where I will say nothing has changed. Think about this. Did you guys ever do a deal on a Foursquare? Okay. So back before digital retailing and, all these fancy tools and stuff, every single pencil inside of a dealership, when I took out numbers to a customer, was on this thing called a Foursquare. And literally it's like it sounds. Piece of paper with 4 boxes on it, okay? At the top was, the basic information, name, how do you want the vehicle titled, right? All these things. That's what it was. In box number 1 was the price of the car. In box number 2 was the trade-in.
I've never heard of this. I'm going to totally write this
Box number
down.
3 was the down payment. Box number 4, the monthly payment. Okay? And you would go and you would present the pencil with these numbers. And that's after you did a good meet and greet. You sold yourself. You sold the dealership. You qualified needs. You took the customer out and you did a solid walk around on the vehicle. You did a test drive. You did a trial close. Then you brought them in and now we're doing numbers, right?
These are the Glengarry leads. The Glengarry leads.
Now we're on a record, okay? Now, the reason we did a Foursquare was this. A customer will always go to their hot button. So if they go to the trade, they're like, oh, that's not going to work for my, that's not going to work, that's not going to work, that's not going to work. Okay? What would happen is maybe I needed to increase the price of the trade, but what did I not do? I didn't lower the price of my car. I didn't lower the payment or the down payment. I'm just talking about this box because this is the box that they were cared about. So
that's the combustion point.
It's the psychology of the car deal, right? It's about hearing what their hot button is, talking to their hot button, acknowledge, align, and then sell. You can't sell until you acknowledge and you align, right? So I heard you that this is the important thing. We're going to talk about this important thing. And if I handle this important thing, all the other dominoes just go, right? So now I want you to think about this. What is every CTA on every website? What do they say?
Internet price, best price, or I don't know, something of the sort.
Trade value, your trade.
Trade value, correct.
If you think about what the CTAs are, what are they? Are they these four things I just said?
Yeah, technically, yeah.
Almost every dealership, not the exact word, but it's exactly these
things. Sure, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So why do we think anything's changed? Nothing's changed. Customer is literally submitting a lead on their hot button. And then what do we do? You submit a lead on a trade-in lead, and I start talking about price. Customers don't care about the price of the car. They care about
do you want to come in for a test drive? And it's like, I sent you a trade lead. Like, dude, I don't.
But this is where we miss in this so often, where I say everything has changed and nothing has changed. The psychology and the purpose of a salesperson still exists. It's why AI is a great tool. AI to me is the same as a cell phone. It's a tool. Remember when we used to have to text and go 222 and a 33 555 and now I got one word?
And not only that, we used to text after 6 p.m. when it was free because before that it was
right, okay. And now texting is super easy. I know somebody's selling when I hear two words. What if? When I hear those two words, I know somebody is selling something. I want $12,000 for my car. What if I could get you closer to 11.5? I want my car payment to be $550. Digital retailing goes, well, according to this, your payment's $600. A car guy goes, well, what if I could extend your term and get you to that $550? Would that work? What if? What if is the thing that a computer, a digital retailing tool, an AI tool, it's the thing that doesn't happen. So if selling happens in those two words, what if?
Yeah, dude, I'm writing that down immediately.
Okay, that's when I know somebody's selling. And that's where I say from the Foursquare to the digital retailing, there's no difference. It still is relationship building. It's listening, aligning.
It's an emotional experience.
Nothing has changed, yet everything has. So that's just to lean in on what I meant by that, and that's to make the main thing the main thing. Don't get wrapped up in buzzword bingo.
Yeah, the pageantry of it.
You know, BDC this or AI that. Like, get out of all the words and go back to making the main thing the main thing. And once you do that, it becomes real clear what tools do I need in my tool belt to help me accelerate making the main thing the main thing. Does that make sense? Like,
jeez, that's almost that. We can almost end it right there. Like, that's nuggets. You want to talk about mic drop, high five?
I know, and I hate that I'm not here to physically get it.
Like, oh my God, April, I've never heard that before. Like you said, student of the business, even after 23 years. What if? Like, I am totally using that with your permission. Like, that is absolutely awesome. So anybody watching or listening, I hope you're writing all this down, because we might even have to do a part 2, Matt, with April. There's just too much to unpack here.
We even got to
we didn't even get into the meat and potatoes. Like, we might. April, would you come back?
Oh, you know I will.
Oh my God, I have like all these notes here, and I'm like, I want to talk about, you know, the training and the like best practices and what have you. Like, Man, this is awesome. Matt, any closing words or any like
April,
what you got,
I
bud?
tell you, I think it's been fantastic. The mentality I think that you have and the mentality I have, I feel like it's such an alignment. I hear when you speak, it's very much the way I think, and it's just very refreshing to meet somebody like you with the experience and that you have that thinks the way that you do, and I'm excited to get to know you better over the time.
Well, listen, I mean, this has been so amazing. April, if anybody would want to reach you and talk to you, because you said some pretty high level stuff that, you know, there's going to be some general managers listening to this and some dealer principals as well that may want to, hey, wait a minute, how is she doing that? How can people reach you? Like, what's the best place to?
LinkedIn is usually the best way, because that way, and I'm not always like Johnny on the spot to answer, because you know my private messages get blown up with people trying to sell me crap. But I do eventually skim all that junk out, and I get to somebody who's actually asking a real question. I'll definitely get back to you. So that's always the best. I think the best way to catch me.
I'm Shawn Armour, owner and founder of BDC Alchemy. You can hit me up at bdcalchemy.com, and you can equally hit me up on LinkedIn. Matthew, are you back? How can people reach you if they have questions with regards to anything related to outsource or what have you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best place would be spinwheelsales.com. My cell phone number is on there. I'm not afraid you guys reach out to me directly through there. Obviously, throughout all the social medias, I'm just Matt Huber there. So just anything you
That's awesome. Awesome. And April, I'm not lying. Thank you so much for showing up. I like I was telling Matt, I'm like, because I think Natalia reached out to you and she was like, okay, does April? I'm like, tell April Shawn Armour needs you. And she told me what you said, and I am so grateful. Like anything for Shawn. You're my sister. I really love you. And just I would do anything for you. And I really loved having you on, Shawn. I'm not joking. There will definitely be a part 2, but thank you so much for being a part of this. And to anybody watching, thanks for joining in. And I hope you guys got something from it.
Thank you, Shawn. I just love spending time with you. And Matt, so nice to meet you. Like you said, I very, very aligned in the thought processes. So this was a amazing way for me to spend some time before I jet out on an airplane. So I appreciate it.
Have fun.